The X-Men, arguably the largest team of superheroes in all of superhero comic books. From the get-go, they have championed political change, cinematic progress, and are basically the origin for that everyone gets unique powers trope in shonen anime. And yet, we are still somewhat limited on mutants in Marvel Rivals. Now I won't lie, they did treat us with the addition of Emma Frost and 2 X-Men maps, but when I asked what video I should do next, you all still wanted more X-Men. And then I took it a step further. For the first time in the channel's history, not only did you guys vote on what theme the video should be, you all voted on who should specifically get made. Now if you're new here, welcome to the Hamato House. We're going to design 3 hero kits for Marvel Rivals, as well as a new map idea, a couple skin ideas, and for the first time on the channel, a new game mode. But first, we need to go over the rules. If you've been here before, just skip to this timestamp, or the next chapter in the video timeline. First things first, each hero needs to be feasible in functioning within a competitive hero shooter. Second, this is all for fun, and it's not serious in any way whatsoever. So if you don't like a decision, just let me know down below. Thirdly, we won't really be bringing up numbers or stats. They don't matter on a conceptual level, and any percentages, numbers, or anything like that is purely used as an example or for the sake of explanation, since it can always be adjusted or changed in nerfs and buffs and updates by actual game designers who know more so on the number side what they're doing. And finally, let me know your pitches for other characters down below. The first poll I uploaded was for which Vanguard you all wanted. And whilst I'm not going to lie, I was hoping for Rogue, Armor did win, and I'm a man of my word. But don't worry, she is an awesome mutant with tons of potential. Hisaki Ichiki, I'm probably going to get told I mispronounced that by everyone in the comments, is a young mutant who over the last generation of X-Men has grown both in popularity and story prominence. Her mutations explanation has evolved over the years with her, but for the most part, she can create psionic exoskeletons around herself that act as literal armor, hence the name. Now, this has in modern storylines been expanded to have ties to her memories and her family's heritage, but for the most part, it's just a mental construct. Now, I really want to push into the idea of a Vanguard who takes the bubble or shield hero category and just embraces it, so much to the point where they effectively redefine the concept. The psionic armor surrounding her realistically needs to be constantly present and a core element of her kit, whilst also still acting as a shield of sorts from her natural health bar. So without any more delays, let's just delve into what I've cooked up for her. So, as I said, the most important thing is getting the armor she wears right. And I thought the passives are the best place to realistically do this. Psionic exoskeleton means that armor has what are effectively 2 health bars. She at all times has her own one, but then in addition has something I will be referring to as Exo Shield, which will appear as a second health bar either above her normal health bar, or more artistically, like a highlighted box around her health bar. Whichever one you guys think looks cooler. This Exo Shield, when fully depleted, will lock her out of using her cooldowns, but when it's present, she has the classic armor suit around her. When it comes to regaining this Exo Shield, well, you can't have it healed by normal means, so health packs and support abilities don't actually restore it. However, it does naturally regenerate outside of combat. In addition, she'll have another ability that can help with it, Astonishing Armor. This is her second passive and references her time in the Astonishing X-Men. This means that if she loses Exo Shield because of her cooldown abilities, given some will cost Exo Shield to use, then she can gain temporary damage reduction. Obviously it wouldn't last forever, but it's just something to make up for the overall cost of spending Exo Shield. Which brings us to explaining the 2 key mechanics for armor and what her whole kit is about. She is a balancing act of Exo Shield and managing damage resistance. Through her Exo Shield, she can mitigate literal damage taken onto her armor, and basically the exact same thing happens with the damage reduction she gets. And the whole kit is going to play into both of these systems in different ways. So when it comes to her primary fire, well, Armor doesn't worry about mind over matter when her mind projects it. Mind matter allows her to perform some melee combos, dealing slightly higher damage when she has more exo shield. And alongside this, she has Suit Up, her more defensive alternate fire. I wouldn't call it a fire, but it's the alternate burn. This acts kind of like a shield ability, in which she raises her arms to block incoming attacks, and while doing this, she gains a reduction to incoming damage, and slowly regenerates her exo shield. This ability, however, will not generate exo shield if that is already above 50%. It can still give her the damage resistance, and she can use it to push into a fight or to retreat, but if her exo shield hits 50 or is higher, she isn't going to heal it. This ability will solely just increase the speed of healing up to that point. Her normal passive of out of combat she heals exoskeleton still works with 50, just this move doesn't. This whole idea is that you can use this on a retreat, or you can just speed up the reset between team fights, but generally you wouldn't usually advance with this move unless you're pushing on a lot of heavy fire. As for her cooldowns, she has two main options. The first is Shared Memory. This allows Armor to apply Exo Shield to nearby allies. For each ally she would apply it to, she then would lose a small amount of her own Exo Shield. I gave 10% as an example, but realistically this number would change dependent on balance, but the idea is that she gives her own armor to buff allies. And due to using it, Astonishing Armor would then give her a reduction to damage she would start taking. Basically meaning you're armoring your allies and any damage you're going to take is mitigated. Her second option is Detonation, which comes in two wonderful flavors. When activated, she readies herself, and dependent on whether you select the primary or the alternate fire, she will either perform a strike or a vault. These, if they had a cooldown, would share one. But given they cost Exo Shield as well, I'm honestly okay with them either having no cooldown, or if they did, it being a particularly short one. Strike, if you press the primary fire button, would have Armor fire her Exosuit's fist forwards, and either after a short distance or when it hits an enemy or a wall, it would then explode, dealing damage to enemies within a set AoE of itself. And once again, the percentage on the kit are not innately final, but the strike would cost more than the alternate option, being Vault. When using the alternate fire button, Armor explodes her legs instead, and vaults in the direction she is facing. This is her only mobility power, and obviously costs some Exo Shield. The idea is to use this when leaving spawn, hoping to naturally regenerate the Exo Shield by the time you reach the fight, or to use it as a last ditch effort to escape a fight, using your passive damage resistance as a follow-up to ensure you don't immediately get KO'd. Overall, this kit ends up forming a strong balance of Exo Shield management and then constant reduction to incoming damage, effectively turning her into a literal living armor. And as you mitigate all that damage like a sponge, you will build up your ult, X Armory. This ult has two sides to it. Firstly, it transforms Armor into a more imposing threat, but secondly, it also grants her two unique options to end the ult with. I really like when games like this give players choice. It builds options in a fight and allows for real skill expression and some creativity. So when activated, she enlarges herself and gains a general damage buff. In addition, her Exo Shield quadruples. So if it was hypothetically 100, it's now 400 HP. This form lasts for only a few seconds, but pressing the ability 1 or ability 2 inputs would end it prematurely with a unique effect. Pressing ability 2 or detonations input causes Armor to thrust her palm forwards, creating a large cylindrical danger zone, and all enemies inside of it take instant damage and are pushed back dramatically. This is good for taking out low health enemies or for shoving people off the map in specific scenarios. You could also use this for breakable walls and payloads, so it's a cool surprise attack and just a way to shove people off point in overtime to snag a win last second. Pressing ability 1, however, instead takes all bonus Exo Shield gained from the ult, so in the example of 400 HP, it would be 300 of that exo shield, and it distributes it amongst all of her currently not KO'd allies. The exo given to allies via the ult is shown in a unique colour to shared memory, and from this point onwards, as long as an ally has this uniquely coloured exo shield armour, she will have a stackable damage reduction effect. Effectively, this means that her ult can either be a clutch moment strike or a hyper defensive boost for your allies that gives a lasting effect to armour if her team are skilled enough to maintain it. Now, I wanted this video to feel really full and complete, so I have also given all 3 heroes 2 team-ups with existing characters on the roster. The first of Armor's references the training she underwent with Weapon X himself, Logan, aka the Wolverine. This team-up is Weapon A, as in for armor, and it grants her a new ability. When she presses the team-up input, she creates psionic claws for a set period of time. Whilst these claws exist, her attack speed is increased and Detonation Volt is slightly altered. Now, Detonation Volt launches armor further. It kidnaps enemies hit and deals a small amount of damage to said hit enemy. Basically, she copies Logan's leap, turning a retreat ability into a kidnap that allows you to engage a foe one-on-one. Keep in mind it would still trigger Astonishing Armor and give you that sweet reduction to incoming damage. Of course, I said I gave everyone 2, and for her second, I wanted to really lean into the roster we have and give her a team up with someone she wouldn't normally work with. Memory Foam makes Armor the team anchor and gives Mr. Fantastic a few changes to his existing abilities. Firstly, Reflexive Rubber, his damage absorption ability, now doesn't auto-fire its charged shot at the end of its use. Instead, Reed stores it, and when he next makes an attack, it will fire the reflexive shot instead. In addition, Flexible Elongation, his dash to a friend move, has a brand new feature when used on armor. Instead of providing her with the normal shield it grants, it now gives her a burst of exo shield regeneration, meaning if they're on the same team, he can help her regain her exo shield. The idea here isn't to massively boost Reed in any way, but instead to just allow them to work better in tandem and lead into their tanky roles. Honestly, I think this could be a super fun addition and I'd love to see what you guys think of it. But before we delve into our next hero, let's take a look at my new game mode idea instead. This is the Danger Room, and it is one of the most iconic parts of the X Mansion. For those of you who don't know, the Danger Room is a training facility used by the X-Men to simulate their greatest foes and prepare them in the use of their powers and in facing off against anti-mutant villains and the Brotherhood of Evil, alongside a number of different examples. I really love the idea of taking this and using it for a PvE game mode. And I was also kind of inspired by the likes of wave-based shooting games. My general concept is one of 3 scenarios, and I think all of these could be used simply by having the Danger Room be a limited but returning game mode in different seasons. The idea is that the room, when first introduced, has sentinels as basic drone-type enemies for the players to face. Then, in future seasons, you could have a preparing for Null's invasion and make those drones symbiotes, or you could have Ultron take over the room like in Krakoa and present us with Ultron drones to face. Whatever it is, that would be the generic wave-based enemy idea to basically survive rounds facing off against them and earning points. Taking out drones would provide players with points, and bigger drones give more points. Then they can spend those on a few different things. You can buy and then possibly upgrade your cooldowns for the hero you chose to play as. You could buy one-time ults to have in rounds to come. Maybe you could buy the hero swaps, so you can change what hero you are in later rounds. And then the final thing you can spend points on are perks. A hero can have 1 perk equipped and will have an option of 3 to choose from when buying them. These perks are class specific bar 1, which is universal. The universal perk that anyone can choose to buy is Warlock's Luck. and it means if you are KO'd, then you would revive at the start of the next round. Normally, if you were KO'd, you would have to wait until a boss is defeated. This perk is the only one that is expended on use. Then, for the Vanguards, they can choose from Fortify, a perk that means at the start of the round, you will generate a small Magneto-looking shield that takes damage before you do. This shield would then regenerate its health each round. Or you can choose Payback. This perk grants them a steady damage increase that scales up as they take damage. However, healing would then decrease this buff. As for duelists, they would have access to Healing Factor. This would heal 30% of their missing health at the start of a round. Or Overheat, which triggers after attaining 10 KOs. While it is equipped, it enters the user into an overheated state, increasing their attack speed and therefore their damage output. The count resets after the overheated state ends, which wouldn't be too long. And then finally, the strategists have Purify, a perk that means dealing damage increases the amount they can heal. However, when they take damage, Purify then resets. Or they can take Splashback, a perk that means when they heal someone, they also heal themselves at 50% of the healing done. One final addition I should mention in this game mode concept is that players' ammo would be limited. KO'd enemies would drop ammo packs, which work just like health packs, and they would refill the player's primary fire ammo. The main reason for this is so that strategists don't break the game mode, and alongside that, the team size would be limited down to 4. This just means you really have to think about what roles you bring to the game. Also, the limited ammo thing would mean that this would actually make characters who are melee based gain a real benefit to being melee, even though they're risking themselves by standing closer to the hordes of enemies coming in. It throws out this question of who is the best character to pick for this new game mode. As for rewards, I like the idea of rewarding players for hitting certain rounds. So if you beat round 20, you get a spray related to the enemy that you're fighting that season. At round 50, it'd be an emoji. And then at round 100, should you be able to make it that far, you get a unique mood icon for the hero that you were playing as on round 100. I also mentioned bosses in this sort of like description, and I imagine that the first 5 rounds are sort of like tutorial-esque. The 5th round including your first boss. But after that, it would be every 10 rounds starting from round 10. As for who the bosses are, well, they'd just be scaled up versions of heroes on the roster, with the generic enemies you usually face alongside them. Maybe rounds 50, 60, and 70 could have 2 roster heroes, and rounds 80 and 90 could have 3, and then round 100 onwards, well, that matches your team size with 4 bosses to fight on a round. Honestly, I think this could be so cool, and I really want to know what you all think. This is my first game mode concept, and I'm shocked I haven't seen anyone else bring up either the Danger Room or a proper PvE game mode idea yet, because they have so much potential and I think it could be so fun. Now, let's get back into the pitches and look at our voted duelist, Iceman. But before I quickly go on about Bobby Drake, I want to quickly mention if you've made it this far into the video and you aren't already, please do subscribe. It helps the channel a lot. We are growing really fast and I'm so proud of the community we've all built. It's great. We're having fun here. And if you have any of your own ideas, make sure to leave them in the comments. Personally, I measure how successful we're doing based on the engagement I'm getting from you guys. So if you're talking to me, if you're leaving comments, coming up with your own ideas, pitches, let me know your thoughts. I know that you guys are getting interactive and the community is growing, and I think that's a great thing. Anyway, Bobby Drake is Iceman, and he's always been the youngster of the X-Men team, and he's always been an automatic fan favorite thanks to his chilling charisma and cool powers. Okay, I'll quit with the puns, but he is an awesome hero who deserves some respect. The powers are pretty self-explanatory. He freezes things and makes ice. There's not much else to it, I'm afraid. That being said, I've seen a few pictures online for him, but none that were duelists. It seems everyone has him either as a vanguard due to being able to make ice walls, or a strategist, since rivals have given ice or water some healing quality with Luna and Jeff. Now, for this kit, I wanted to focus on 2 key things that I felt were essential in his moveset. Firstly, ice bridges, more specifically the Frozone style Path of Ice, that he's often riding along in pretty much every depiction. And secondly, I wanted to add in a frost effect that slows and then freezes enemies. Now, the way I end up handling this freeze mechanic isn't how I'd actually see it implemented in the game in reality. I just didn't want to overcomplicate the text with all of that, but when it comes up, I'll explain both versions of the frost system. I believe it's when I get to the ult. I also need to remind everyone that sometimes things I explain on these character cards wouldn't naturally appear on a character card on the in-game version, since NetEase have other places to show and explain key mechanics, and also sometimes they don't even explain how something actually works. They expect you to hop in the practice range and learn it for yourself. So first up, we have his primary fire, Cryo Crystal, and this would be a burst shot of 3 ice shards in quick succession, mediocre base damage but with a high crit. And alongside that, we would have Chill Out, a close range shotgun blast of ice that hits in all directions. Enemies here are lightly damaged, but also have slowness applied to them. If they already have slowness from one of Iceman's abilities, then they are frozen. Frozen enemies cannot move and are unfrozen after a couple seconds, or if they take a certain amount of damage. That number would be low. It just means that a single melee or particularly weak attack won't unfreeze them. Also, for context, Chill Out would have a cooldown after use. And now it's time to explain that thing I said normally wouldn't be explained in character sheets. Iceman's uncanny structures. In this kit, Iceman is going to be able to create ice trails and ice bridges. Here's what they can do. An ice trail is left on the floor, kind of like Penny's webs or Luna's little skating path. They, however, do vanish after a few seconds, but whilst active, enemies who walk on them have slowness. This slowness stops as soon as they step off the trail. Enemies on the trail, however, cannot jump. The second structure, ice bridges, are an improved form of ice trail. They are solid ice structures and do not vanish after a set amount of time. Instead, they have a health bar, working similarly to destructible environments already in the game. Of course, they have all the other properties of an ice trail. And with that, we can finally talk about Iceman's passive abilities. First up is Frostbite, representing the icy shell he creates around his body. When Iceman is on top of an ice trail or an ice bridge, he moves slightly faster and is immune to any movement abilities, like Invisible Woman's shove or Jeff's ult, or the Thing's ground slam. And alongside this, he has Snowfall, one of the few ways he can create ice structures. When Iceman is falling, he can hold the jump button to instead fall at a slower rate and leave a bridge behind him. Similarly to other slow fall mechanics in the game, he can only use this if he is above a certain altitude, and it lasts until he lands fully on the ground. But it does make for a great way to create paths that lead back up to the high ground. Now, Iceman also has a couple passives, the first of which is his main setup and mobility power, Speed Skates. This can be switched in the settings between being a toggle or a hold to use ability, much like all the other running powers, and it has Iceman move at a fast rate of speed. And it has Iceman move faster, now leaving an ice trail behind him. Should Iceman use this and reach a gap or ledge, instead of falling, he will continue to run at the exact same height, now leaving an ice bridge beneath him. This effectively rewards Iceman for exploring unique paths on the maps and finding creative ways to reach the high ground in order to build his bridges. While using this power, he cannot jump and he cannot use other abilities except Cryo Crystal. I would also imagine that if he stops using this ability, it would have a short cooldown before he can use it again. Think like how Cap's shield works. When he puts it away, he has to wait a couple of seconds before he can put it back out. Finally, Iceman has access to Flash Freeze. This has him raise his hand and grab a nearby enemy or destructible terrain. Grabbing an enemy partially freezes them, applying slowness, but if they are already slowed because of Iceman, then this freezes them, just like Chill Out. If, however, he hits an environment or structure, then he freezes it. Frozen structures have the properties of ice bridges, but with incredibly low health bars. This means he can combo flash freeze with either his snow trail or chill out to freeze an annoying enemy, or an ulting threat. Or he can use it to quickly dispose of a wall or structure in his way, lowering its health and then breaking it instantly. Overall, the idea here is to create structures to better move around the map and then to freeze your enemies by comboing abilities to your best possible use. Eventually, you will build up ult, and it becomes a snow day. In this ult, Iceman freezes a large area. All surfaces within that area for the duration of the ult are considered ice bridges. In addition, snow begins to fall, and enemies within this area slowly build frost. This is the mechanic I originally intended for flash freeze, ice trails, and chill out to use, but for simplicity's sake, I relegated it to only appearing in the ult. Frost builds over time spent in the ult's AoE and is measured in percentage. When an enemy reaches 25% frost, they are slowed. If they reach 50% frost, they are greatly slowed, and at 75% they start taking dots, and then finally at 100% frost, they are completely frozen. If an enemy leaves the AoE, then they slowly begin to lower their frost. Because of the ult's effects, this does mean any enemies with a frost of 25% or higher struck by flash freeze or chill out are instantly frozen. Frozen enemies will instantly have their frost set to 100%. Enemies at 100% frost do not unfreeze when taking damage until the ult is over. The whole kit comes together as this fun way to implement a stun or freeze mechanic as a character centerpiece while still requiring skill and allowing for counterplay. I didn't want him to ever have an insta-freeze button that would just annoy everyone in fights. I instead wanted him to have to earn it whilst embracing Iceman's famous mobility style. Of course, as I said before, Iceman comes equipped with some team-ups, the first of which is Cold Heart, affecting Iron Man and Emma Frost. This gives them access to the Frost mechanic. Iron Man's Unibeam now applies frost to enemies damaged, and Emma Frost's telepathic pulse does the same once it reaches 90% charge. Of course, these two heroes would apply frost at different rates, and if needed, Iron Man's could be limited to his overdrive mode. I just wanted to use a different move since all his team-ups have been about the overdrive at this point, and it'd be nice to have some change. As for Iceman's second team-up, who else if not Luna Snow, right? Ice Song has both of these heroes gain a new effect. Luna now leaves ice trails with her smooth skate passive, the one that makes her ice skate, and Iceman can now slowly regenerate health when he is stood on an ice trail. Of course, ice trails do still vanish after a few seconds, and this feature would not carry over onto his bridges. Alright, we are through 2 of our 3 heroes, and I think it's time for the skins and map concepts. First up, the map. Well, we already have 2 Xmen maps, so I really don't think we need a new one anytime soon. But this is an Xmen video, and since my game mode was the Danger Room, why not do the X-Mansion? This would likely be a domination map and could hold so many cool Easter eggs. Obviously, you need the courtyard as a point, the basketball court in view along with some cool things surrounding the school. Maybe a couple mutants can be spotted. Maybe the building is under attack from something. I would say an X-Men villain, but it's rivals, so it would probably be something completely unrelated to the team since NetEase have shown an interest in having IPs from different parts of the Marvel Universe face each other in seasons. Then another point would be just below the courtyard, the hangar. The Blackbird could be readied in the center of point, and then maybe halfway through the match, the ceiling opens up and reveals the courtyard map above it. That could be so cool just to see visually, let alone having interactions with it. Then finally, I would have the old Cerebro room. So you'd spawn in rooms on the far side of the school, and at the center would be the iconic classic Cerebro, where you fight for control. Just picture the dome type point where you are always defending the low ground to maintain the point. Such an interesting twist on a map. As for skins, well, when it comes to the two heroes we've already mentioned, I think Armor could release with an Ultimate Xmen skin, since A, she's one of the main characters in that story, and B, Peach Momoko is the artist on that comic, and she already has a whole bunch of skins in the game. I think maybe a Punk one would be pretty awesome as well, with a Mohawk spike set, and then just super mismatched alternate pieces making up her exoskeleton body. Now, Iceman, I think a classic yellow and blue or the red and black is a must. But maybe we could also get a spiky old man Iceman look, or an Age of Apocalypse skin concept with the no mouth look. Hell, I'd even take Ultimate X-Men Iceman with the bandana and all. Now, when it comes to existing heroes getting more X-Men themed skins, well, I think we need an actually comic accurate Wolverine at some point. I don't even mind which color the suit would be. And then I would like to just see a House of M Wonder skin to go alongside the King Magneto one we already have. Maybe even an emote where her face does the reality erasure thing it does on that iconic cover for House of M. Alright, enough of that, we have a strategist to create, so let's just do it. Kitty Pryde, aka Shadowcat, is one of the most influential X-Men in all of Marvel history. She was originally introduced as the classic new kid on the block archetype X-Men so often uses, but from that she evolved into a recurring fan favourite, even starring as the main character in the iconic Days of Future Past comic book, and facing off against her mentor of sorts, Wolverine, in other stories. Eventually she would leave the X-Men. In fact, she left them and rejoined them quite a few times throughout history, but eventually she left them and joined the Guardians of the Galaxy as their leader, dating Star-Lord for a period of time as well. And at Kitty's side for most of her history has been Lockheed, an adorable alien dragon with smoke and fire breath. As for Kitty's powers, she can become intangible and pass through walls and people. There's technically a little more to it than just that, but we really don't need to delve into the depths of how her mutation functions. Starting things off, Kitty has a passive. Lockheed. On her shoulder rests Lockheed the dragon. Whilst he is on her shoulder resting, she receives healing over time. And if she is damaged, Lockheed will take flight, no longer resting. While flying, Lockheed will circle a set radius and breathe fire on enemies within it. After a few moments of not taking damage, he will return to resting on her shoulder. This is a primary defense and method of healing Kitty has. We'll get into that more in a moment, but generally this is how Lockheed acts within her kit. As for combat, Kitty uses the Ogun's Blade, a ninjato she received from a villain who deceived her into darkness once, but was defeated with the help of Wolverine himself. But attacks are not the priority with Kitty. No, her abilities are where she thrives. The first being Smokescreen. This has Lockheed, wherever he currently is, release an obscuring cloud of smoke, perfect for a getaway or to throw off enemy fire. Following this, she has Flock. Flock is the species Lockheed belongs to, and using it sends him to a targeted ally, granting them his passive instead. This is how she can grant healing over time and a helpful sentry drone. Activating this again will recall Lockheed back to Kitty's shoulder. Kitty's third ability is Phase. This has her quickly shift her molecules for a very brief moment, allowing attacks, AoE effects, and anything that could otherwise hurt her move through her instead. Finally, Kitty has access to Density Surge. This uses charges. I put 4, but like all numbers on this channel, it isn't final. When using this, Kitty dashes in a direction quickly and is completely intangible during the dash. That means she can dash through walls and attacks. In addition, if she dashes through an ally, she applies an immediate small burst of healing along with a short period of healing over time to them. Finally, if you maneuver the battle well, dodge incoming attacks, and navigate Lockheed's location properly, you'll be ready for Days of Future's Clash. A play on words, obviously. However, it unfortunately isn't anything to do with the comic book event, I am afraid. This ability has Kitty dash towards a player and grab them. much like Emma Frost's chokeslam. Then she phases that player and herself. This can be an ally or an enemy, great for a quick save if it's the prior, or to interrupt an ult if it's the latter. Immediately following this phase, each of her allies gain a flock with the qualities of Lockheed, but a slightly faster attack speed. In addition, for the duration these flocks last, Kitty has unlimited charges on Density Surge. Basically, everyone gets an attack drone that has the ability to apply healing over time given they're not taking damage, and Kitty can dash about all over the place with the heal effect that comes from that dash. Once the ult ends, Density Surge resets all its charges to the max amount, and the flock vanishes. And now, it's time for our Kitty Pride team-ups. Firstly, let's have a look at Unseen Passing. This has Kitty as the anchor, and gives Psylocke and Invisible Woman new features. Whilst invisible, they can walk through walls. However, doing so does remove the invisibility, granting Psylocke new routes to take down foes, and granting Sue a new way to escape dangerous encounters. The second team-up I gave her plays into her time as a Guardian. Star Lady is active when on the team with Star-Lord, and it turns Phase into Ninjato Barrage, a move that works identically to Blaster Barrage, but both it and Blaster Barrage, while this team-up is active, make Kitty and Peter intangible for their durations. This effectively means Star-Lord can attack groups safer, and Kitty's defensive counter becomes way more offensive. And since I didn't get to talk about skins for her on the skin section of this video, let's go over them now real quick. I imagine Kitty would join the game in either her black and yellow or black and blue Xmen uniform, but I would also love a skin for her more classic look, the slightly cattish themed one, or her Marauders look, just because I'm a sucker for pirates. And then I do also think giving her a Star-Lord outfit could be so fun, especially if you did kind of like a matching one for Star-Lord Grounded for Star-Lord. Both of those could be really fun to play with. And then I guess the final one would be just giving her the look that she had in Days of Future Past when she traveled back in time. Obviously, it's an iconic comic book cover, and you can even recreate that cover in the MVP animation that comes with that skin. Just a bit of fun. And then I think to add on to Lockheed, you could have him slightly change his design with each of the skins, kind of like how Magic's Darkchild looks different in every skin. I think it'd be fun to see how they handle that. Well, that just about does it for the X-Men pitches. I hope you all enjoyed them, and I'd love to read all of your own ideas in the comments. I'm afraid I'm not going to be as active in replying to some of them immediately, since I am away next week. But rest assured, when I'm back, I'll, as always, read each and every one of your comments and start work on our next video. Now, I've had to delay the DC one for a bit, so that might be the next one we make. We also might just get straight into work with another Marvel Rivals video. I also want to get onto work with a non-Rivals related video coming soon as well. So we've got a few different things in the works, should be tons of fun. And then, don't think I've forgotten, I do plan on making some form of retrospective relatively soon. I want to dip my toes into that, see how well it is to make, see how fun it is to make, and see if you guys enjoy that sort of thing as well. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.